today. So every day we start fresh because we can't affect the past, but we damn sure can make a difference today.
And we're back with another episode of Shop Talk discussing 814 of The Rookie. Celina proved herself with the missing persons department, much to the dismay of Detective Desmond. Wesley flipped the tables on Vivian, and Nolan and Dash had a few nice moments. There's no new episode description for 816, so we'll just get right into our recap.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Take us
Mhm.
through the troubling incident.
Yeah, so the whole thing at school and how it Dash is involved. So for this part of the episode, Dash ends up calling John while he's riding with Tim and basically alludes to the fact that he's standing over a dead body. Um, which honestly kind of like reminded me of like Skip Tracer Randy when he's like,
Yeah.
should I be doing this or is this okay? And it's like obviously you're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Um, so cue Nyla and Angela's arrival, and the body is identified as Kenneth Morris, who Dash clarifies is or was his English teacher. Um, However, Dash wasn't the first one to find the body. It came from like a rumor mill started by his classmates. So now they've got to piece that together by talking to the students. So we have like a little mini montage, I guess. Harper's talking to CJ, Angela's talking to Zoe, John talks to Autumn, who's like apparently Dash's crush and like got a part in a movie and was emancipated from her parents, so she can like, talk without them. So she gets to go first. And I mean, like we hear like bits and pieces of like things from other people, like, influencer, deals and people need to vape because they're like stressed out. And I'm like, oh my God, is this just like a Gen Z thing or like what? Like I've never heard like so many things going on at one time. Like it was never like that in high school for me. So,
Yeah.
um, but so we see like some things, and it doesn't really get anywhere though. Like after they're talking, it just kind of goes in circles because someone heard it from someone who heard it from this person, and da 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 da. And Dash is waiting outside, and like apparently Lucy's been doing some digging and comes up with like a working theory about the timelines. So basically, there's like multiple like possibilities of how they're all connected, in this like rumor mill. So apparently, like Zoe got a DM on Friday about the dead body, and she told CJ, and CJ told Reese, who maybe told Marissa and Casey. And then like timeline two could involve Lynette and Emma, who were taking pics for their joint like Instagram account in the bathroom of like their outfits and things when they heard someone crying who was supposed to be Reese. Um, and Dakota is somehow involved because like Reese is or Dakota is the second BFF of Reese, but she kind of wants to be first. So Dakota would basically do whatever Reese said because she like wanted people to find out about Mr. Morris. Um, and I don't really know like why the whole thing was relevant of, apparently there were vibes between like CJ and Zoe, but CJ and Reese also had history. I was like, why do we care?
Yeah, I was
Like,
like, this is so convoluted right now. I don't care.
yeah, I was like, I didn't really understand. But apparently Zoe's also connected to Emma and Autumn and Paul, which segues into the third possible timeline of like Zoe messaging Marissa about like the rumor that Autumn had told her. But Marissa also heard Paul and Travis talking about it after school. But since Dakota's the one who would do anything for Reese, everything basically links back up to Reese. So Harpez go to talk to her. And she had applied to go to Yale, and since it was discovered that all the students who received tutoring from Kenneth got into good schools, she was surprised to find out that she didn't get into Yale. Um, that didn't sit well with her mom, who went to talk to Mr. Morris about it, and they went outside, but only Reese's mom came back and not Kenneth. So Reese's mom is brought into custody under that suspicion. Um, so since Dash's classmates are off the hook now, there's no more info that they need from him, so he's free to go. Apparently, his dad Gus is picking him up. He only comes around like once a year or so, just to like prove that he's around or somewhat of a parent in his life, even though he's really not. And when Gus arrives, he's buzzing about some Tiger Bear Whiskey Tequila Hybrids. That's where we get the episode title from. That'll make millions of dollars if people get in on the ground floor. And he even asked Nolan about like, $10,000. And I was like, why?
Yeah. He was
Why?
annoying. Not as
Yeah.
annoying as the detective, but he was annoying.
Yeah. It was like kind of insane. Um, Although granted, I've been watching a lot of Shark Tank recently, so I was like, wow, I'm getting flashbacks to like a super bad pitch in that show.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, that would not be an investable decision.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so yeah, he's like buzzing about that and is just like, okay, let's go. They're gonna go, order pizza, watch the, last night's UFC match, and like just hang out. So Dash and Gus go back to his house. He like drinks more, and asks Dash if he wants any, and he's like, "Oh no, thanks. I like chugged some gasoline or something on the way over." So like that was kind of a funny one line. Um, but before they can do much else, a couple of guys bang on the door demanding that Gus let them in, basically because he owes them money. And Gus tells Dash to hide, so he ducks in the closet. And while Roland are on patrol still, Dash calls John again and tells him what's happening. Before Roland gets there, though, Dash decides to try and help his dad out by saying that they can go rob his rich classmate's house for stuff. Um, and Autumn's house is the choice because she's supposed to be at her movie premiere tonight, so no one will be home. But of course, when Dash and one of the robbers named Andre go up to the door, Autumn answers and is like all upset that she was cut out of the movie, um, and not really like paying attention to what is going on until the gun is pointed at her. And then um, they Autumn and Dash are taped together, like hand in hand, kind of, while the other robbers search for liquor to take with the help of Gus, which was like so random and like kind of unnecessary because like you could see even when the guy, whoever he was dragging the bag like behind it, it was so heavy because it was full of like those glass bottles. And I'm like, why is this a thing?
Yeah.
Because they kept mentioning jewelry and all this stuff. So I was like, okay, someone's gonna go find the jewelry, which I mean they did eventually, but it was just like so random. Um,
Also, like, why are you dragging it? Like, it's
yeah,
probably just gonna break it,
hmm
you know?
yeah, yeah. So apparently Andre is the one that goes looking for the jewelry, which is in Autumn's parents' closet. And while she and Dash are taped up, they find something. I don't really know what else to say except for kinky, I suppose, in her parents' nightstand. It's
Yeah.
like alluded to, but we don't see anything or know anything really. But apparently this comes in handy later though when Dash tells Andre there's like a gold bar in that drawer, so he goes over to get it after he's looted the like jewelry and some bags. And Dash kicks him right where you don't want to be kicked, and then Nolan succeeds in arresting Andre. Tim had taken out the other robbers who were with Gus by the liqueur, like in the kitchen. So they're both down. The only like really plus side of everything was like Dash's crush was revealed to Autumn, who thought she was like, it's not like he wasn't cute. So considering that she thanked him for attempting to save her, I guess that's progress for them.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was all sorts of awkward.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
It was something, that's for sure.
yeah, that's definitely one way to put it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so back at the station, Gus expresses his agreement and that Dash would be better off without him in his life. Dash had like, yelled about his selfishness to Gus at Autumn's house at the end of the night. And that's, like that's all he cared about was himself. And Nolan basically told Gus that unless he changes, then yeah, he's probably right for him to leave Dash alone. Um, and Dash's mom is coming to pick him up, so he'll go home with her instead of his dad again. So that's kind of like the end of the road for them. That's like the end of the story for Dash. Honestly, the promo made it seem like I don't know why I would think like he was somehow a suspect, like Dash or something,
Yeah.
but like I almost thought he was gonna be like more involved in the actual case instead of like the connection. Well, just a happenstance of circumstances that
Yeah.
happened with his dad after the fact. but whatever. It is what
Yeah.
it is. That's how Dash was. That's how Dash's plot played out this week.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we have Selena's missing persons assignment, which I loved. Like it really showcased her. And I liked seeing her, kind of by herself. She wasn't with any of our other main faves. It was like just her.
Mhm.
So she's on a temporary assignment with the Detectives Bureau and has chosen to work with the missing persons department. I want to know like how well, obviously she chose missing persons because of her sister, but
Yeah.
like, do they just always get to choose, or was this like a one-off
Mhm.
case? Like, I just want to know.
Good
Um,
question.
so Tim questions it and she asks Lucy if it's really that bad. We find out that Detective Desmond has a reputation, and she's like a Harper reputation, and it's actually quite the opposite. So. Yeah, it's gonna be a interesting shift for her. So she's standing in his office and he's like, this job is where ambition goes to die. And he's like, it's not a real department. It's a halfway house for cases on the way to real departments. The fact that you're a detective and like you already have that kind of notion,
Right.
I don't know. That's not very good to like portray and like,
Yeah.
you know,
But
convey
like
to
at the
someone
same
else.
time though, like when they had said not a Harper reputation, like quite the opposite, I was thinking like super bright, optimistic, like
Yeah.
everything. And that was so not it. So I was
Yeah,
like, I mean, yes, granted Harper's not the same, Nyla as, season two, but
right.
like she's still very much like, okay, here's how it is, and like she doesn't
Yeah,
sugarcoat things, which is like what that guy did too. So I was like, how is that
yeah,
the opposite? Like I
yeah.
didn't get it. So when he
He was
was
like,
so negative, I was like, what the
yeah,
heck?
he was like a cross between Smitty and Nyla, almost in a way. He had Nyla's kind of like um outlook on things and Smitty's lack of effort on things, for sure.
Very true. Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's that one thing he was like, oh, okay, like, time to go home. And I was like, really,
Yeah.
dude? You're like not done yet.
I was like, What work have you even done?" Like he's
Right.
sitting there playing a Sudoku book. Okay.
Yeah.
Come on. Come on, you're a detective. And if it's just you, like you should be doing other stuff. I don't know. It was wild. So she sees the stack of reports and she's like, well, that's a lot of reports for a fake department. And he's like, yeah, 90% of these cases will solve themselves. Scenarios of teenagers just needing to blow off steam. A wife went on a bender, came home when she sobered up, kid fell asleep when playing hide and seek. Like, I have no doubt that some of these cases are just kind of like, they do end up solving themselves, right? But also like he just made it seem like he wasn't gonna look into any of them and he just like
Yeah.
didn't care. And that to me is quite like that is the opposite of Nyla's reputation for sure.
That is very true.
But I
Yeah.
was just like, as a detective, I don't think you should be like this. Maybe he's just
Yeah.
burnt out, but still. So Selena's like, well, I've been on patrol for 3 years, which 3 years is actually crazy. Can't believe it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I know most missing persons reports go nowhere, but there are people in the sack who are victims of crimes. And Desmond reminds her that there's crimes with their own department. Um, and so another cop comes in and he's like, homicide once, the McGrath case, a fisherman found the body, looks like murder. And Celina, tells Desmond, she's like, obviously you know the job better than me, but it wouldn't hurt to look through the case files and see if there's anyone that they can help. And he's like, go for it. And he just goes back to playing Sudoku. And I'm like, sir, have you met Quigley Smitty? Because I'm pretty sure you guys would be good friends. Pretty sure. Does he also live in Shangri-La? Because, you know. No, no, no. Because if he did, he would not be at work the following
That's
week.
true.
So, so Celina mentions that she thinks she found a workable case with Sadie Bell, who was reported last week missing. And according to her best friend Joe, Sadie never misses visitation with her kid on the first Tuesday of every month. And so he's like, what's the address that we have from the reporting party? And we find out that it's a homeless shelter. And he's like, so Joe and Sadie are both unhoused, which according to him, they're not the most reliable bunch. Um, so Selena's like, well, unhoused women are highly vulnerable to physical and sexual assaults. And Desmond's like, yeah, and they're also more likely to be substance abusers who miss things like supervised visitations. So she still thinks that it's worth investigating and wants to know what their first step is. And he's like, why are you so gung-ho on all of this? And he doesn't want to hear her say that it's just because she's young and persistent. And she mentions her sister getting abducted and living the fear of not knowing where a loved one is. And I mean, she definitely took the whole missing persons department case. Um, she took that, like, I think, to just kind of maybe not get some closure, but just because she felt like she knew that department better. Or she kind of knew like what those victims and family members were going through. But yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of like, okay, it's hitting a little close to home for you. So he's like, that's understandable and quite noble, but he cautions her that the thousands of files in his office aren't an unending stack of potential happy endings. There's a subset that aren't just runaways or miscommunications, and the endings are mostly heartbreaking. So we see Celina and Smitty and then some other officers in this underground tunnel looking for Sadie. Celina mentions that the night that Sadie went missing, it was pouring rain and she should have crawled in this underground tunnel to stay dry and got trapped. Um, and so Smitty mentions that a couple months ago he found a couple of guys living it up in an access tunnel with electricity, Wi-Fi, and the whole thing. And at that moment, I was like, and Smitty, you didn't like go and stay with them too? Like that was your prime opportunity. So Celina gets back on track saying she could be trapped or injured, and Smitty says at this point she'd probably be dead from dehydration. And I'm like, okay, this is like the most logical thing that he has said by far. But also not the time.
No,
Not the time.
really not
So
helpful.
So Selena steps in sludge and gets a call from Desmond, who's like, Sadie showed up this morning. The friend had the visitation day wrong. The center just never calls them. So Selena's in that service tunnel for nothing. And Desmond's like, well, hey, look on the bright side. At least you only wasted your time. This detective really pissed me off. Like he did. He did. So
Yeah.
Lucy meets up with Selena in the station and she heard about the case already and Selena's like, "How?" And Lucy's like, "Well, Smitty." And so Selena says she's gonna owe a lot of favors after dragging the Calvary through the sewers. And I loved how Lucy was like, "Don't refer to any group that involves Smitty as the Calvary." And like, everyone will forgive you. Like someone else will screw up way worse, and they'll be focused on that. A duo I didn't know I needed, but I need more of now is Smitty and Selena. Because we haven't seen them a whole lot together.
Yeah.
So Lucy tells her that one misstep doesn't change the fact that her instincts are legendary and, to take a second to waller in this and then, get cleaned up and get back out there. So Selena's looking through case files, finds one in her building. The girl named Apple was reported missing a month ago. And so Desmond says they get a lot of reports after Coachella. And Selena's like, yeah, but she had a strong social media presence, didn't post anything about what happened and this particular year of Coachella was big, like the massive dust storm canceling day two. And Desmond's like, it's not a smoking gun though. And Selena's like, okay, I know how this sounds, but something's telling me to investigate. And so he's like, all right, I can see what's going on. She lives in your building. You want to take a case near your house so you can investigate it from your living room. And then when the shift ends, you can just be a few steps from her futon. She's not trying to go home early though. And the fact that he like suggested that is weird and really
Yeah.
shows where he wants to be, truly.
Right.
Um, and she's like, and also it's not like she went looking for a case that was like in her apartment building
No.
or like close to home. Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, obviously, like everyone has different motives being on the shop, or, if he's been there for a while, like he probably is burnt out and everything. But like when you get someone new, like you have to kind of put on a facade that like you're good with what you're doing there, I feel like, you
Yeah.
know? Um,
Mhm.
so she goes to get off of her floor in the building and pulls out Apple's file, and then she ends up on the eighth floor instead. Apple's roommate opens the door, letting Celina in. And she's like, I've been boxing up Apple's things all day. It's been 30 days. And she's like, I need someone in here to help with rent. Not that Apple was good about it anyway, but, she doesn't believe money, monogamy, or cleaning. So the roommate says Apple was slash is one of her favorite people, and it's just not the best at cohabitation. The last time the roommate saw her was before Coachella. It mentions her taste in guys and alludes to thinking that that's the cause of her going missing. So Celina goes into Apple's bedroom to look around, seeing a spot on the floor that looks cleaner than the other parts. And she, looks under the bed and finds a loose tooth covered in blood. So as she holds it up, the roommate comes in behind her with pepper spray and starts apologizing. And so Selena's like blinded by it. The roommate goes at her with a hammer and just like unleashes on her. And Selena ends up doing the thing and like subduing the roommate, calling for backup and medical help. And like Selena had this in the bag. Like she nailed it. So the roommate was like, Apple was the worst roommate ever, but Selena counters and she's like, no, you are. Um, and so Selena gets back to the station and Desmond comes out to read her the riot act, asking her what she was thinking, to what she's like, I'm fine, thanks for asking. And he mentions that she could have become a missing person herself if the roommate would have been successful in unaliving her. And how would he have known? Because her last known location would have been her apartment building, which is also her house. It is a good point, but she just figured she'd stop by and ask a few questions. And he's like, we've protocols for a reason. Okay, so what are those protocols then, dude? Because like you haven't really stated that, and are they different between departments? Um, so she takes full responsibility, saying that she let her intentions obscure her judgment, and this proves she still has a lot to learn on the job. And she wants to ask a favor though. She says, I remain undaunted. Like if there's a file that comes across your desk that gives you a feeling, call me. She's like, I'm happy to run down any lead that I can free of charge. Um, and so he makes a deal with her and does say that he's glad she's okay. So I'm just like, okay, she made that deal with him. She's saying, like, I'm here if you ever get a feeling and like you want me to run down the lead, like I will. What are the chances that he calls her again, though? Because he already doesn't really care to do his job, it seems like. So, like, is he
Good
just gonna
point.
like use her then? Be
I
like, hey,
mean, maybe.
I got this new file. Like, I need you to run it down.
Maybe so.
I mean, I could see it. Like he's kind of using her as like his gopher in a way.
Yeah.
But I also thought last night when I was live tweeting, I was like, wait, is this foreshadowing to Selena becoming a detective and running the missing persons department?
Oh, that'd
Because
be interesting.
I could see it. I could see it.
Yeah.
And I would like, I don't know. I love seeing Harpez as the detectives. And like I wanted Lucy to become a detective, but I wasn't like totally upset when she didn't, just because I was like, we just had Angela and Nyla both get back into detectives.
Right.
Um, I think Celina could benefit and be a good detective just because her instincts are good. And I think she would probably shine at the missing persons department. Plus, it'd bring in like a whole nother layer of like the cop side of it with everyone else. So I
Mm-hmm.
could see it. And
Yeah.
she's been on the job for like 3 years. So, I mean, at what point does she then like become detective or study and like take the detective's exam?
Yeah.
Maybe she just has to prove herself more with Desmond, but yeah, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Like, it was an interesting storyline to give her number one, but I could see why they were giving it to her more so than like Lucy, right? Like we've already approached the subject of Lucy being detective, you know? So like now we kind of have to go into Celina doing that too. So
Yeah.
yeah, interesting. I'm
Yeah.
intrigued, but also it probably won't go anywhere else this season just because we only have like 3 episodes left now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
take us through Tim's new office.
Yeah, so in the beginning of the episode, Selena wonders what the heck Lucy has to show her and John. And she doesn't want to ruin the surprise though. And ta-da, Tim introduces the Super Shop, aka a high intensity, like multi-computer screen shop. It has like, max bulletproof windows, lots of gear, and he can control it all with his phone. Except for when the alarm and the windshield wipers go, and then his pump up playlist starts after photos from his camera roll are displayed on the monitors in the back for Selena and Lucy to giggle at while John starts grooving to the loud music in the parking lot. So it's a whole lot of chaos.
That was a good cold open in a way. Like
Yeah,
I think it
it
was supposed to
was.
be a cold open, but yeah.
Yeah, and they saw the drone, and like the drone was kind of fun, and like all of their facial expressions, like as
Yeah.
the drone was coming back down, uh was fun too. So
And the pictures
yeah,
of Tim like at home were so funny.
yeah.
I've had that happen before too, where like pictures that were on something that I didn't want that weren't a part of like a presentation were shown. And I just like it took me back to that. And I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
PTSD from that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. So it's obviously no surprise that Gray warns Tim about taking his watch commander job on the road with him. Um, Tim knows there are some things to work out, but he's confident that he can get used to it. And like do the job well still. Um, and so that's of course like tested when he assigns John to ride with him, and after roll call, they head out to a fight between two intoxicated, shirtless men. Uh, Too bad Tim's on hold waiting for the captain on the phone while Nolan got out and tried to fight the guys off and like subdue them. Lucy swooped in as backup though and tackled one of the guys while John handled the other one. All while Tim finally got a hold of the captain for like 2 minutes, maybe,
Yeah.
before having to get out and supervise the hell out of the situation, as John so eloquently put it. So it's like basically Tim was inadvertently like the Smitty of the situation, like did absolutely nothing,
Yeah.
but totally not really his fault at all. Just bad luck. But John and Lucy like handled themselves well as they usually do. Um, it was like very interesting to watch like the camera move around with them as the like fight was going on. Um, so yeah. When they are like riding later, Tim and John, Tim wonders how, Gray like basically did all of it. And John reminds him that Gray had basically like a resting bitch face, um, like a scowl, and so people didn't really talk to him unless it was absolutely necessary. Tim insists that his scowl works, but John says not since Lucy moved in. Um, Cut to Tim's scowl to John, who retracts his earlier statement. Um, I mean, considering they all made it back in one piece and the shop wasn't like damaged or anything, which is shocking given the fact that John was actually driving it. I'm surprised he didn't like crash it,
That's
honestly.
true. I never thought about that.
Yeah. Well, because like John was like so excited, right? And like while they're driving, like the first time we see them, he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is so great," and da 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 da. And I was just like, dude, like the last time you got so excited to drive something was that stupid blue car or something in season
Yeah.
one, and they didn't even let you actually drive it because you had already crashed like two or three shops. So it's
Yeah.
like I was just so shocked that John was the one that was driving. Granted, I mean Tim had his like multitude of
Mhm.
computer screens in front of him and stuff, but it's like Like I said, I was just surprised that nothing,
Yeah.
nothing really bad happened to it.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting how Nolan was the one that was like helping Tim like work out all the kinks with all of this. I was like, okay, maybe because he's like the next higher ranking officer, like underneath Lucy, is in like patrol, and like we find out obviously Miles is, in training for the day or whatever, and Selena's like off doing missing persons. But I was just kind of like, interesting. I mean, I guess his other option would have been Smitty, and like that wouldn't have been very good. So.
Yeah,
But I was just kind of like, okay, okay, so we're here.
yeah.
And I thought it was interesting, but I was also like, yeah, I guess I didn't really think of like Nolan driving the shop and like potentially like ruining it. But
Yeah.
yeah, maybe it
I
was
mean,
because Tim was there and so he had to be like on his A game or something. But
I would sure hope so. Of course, it would take like a lot of damage to
yeah,
like be done to that super
yeah,
shop. But yeah, honestly, I'm just surprised they didn't end up like, being driven into the ocean or something and just
yeah.
like sinking the thing.
I think I
So,
sent it to you, but did you see on Twitter someone was like, because there was I think like that sneak peek or whatever. And someone was like, yeah, that would have been a prime opportunity for Nolan to be like, yeah, I know how that feels because I dated Lucy too or whatever.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 And
Yeah, I saw quite a few people were thinking that.
I was like, dang, they could have totally used that.
Yeah. I mean, considering the fact that like Eric talked so much about, Tim's mom and like basically manifested that, I'm honestly surprised because that was the other thing he talks about
Uh-huh.
quite a bit is, Tim finally finding out somehow that, John and Lucy used to date. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, they had an opportunity there, but they
Yeah.
didn't take it.
It was like the perfect prime opportunity, you
Yeah.
know? Oh my
Hmm.
gosh. It would have been so funny because then I could just see Tim being like, wait, what? And Nolan's like,
Yeah.
nothing. Yeah.
Right. And then the scowl would just stay permanently there for the
Yeah.
rest of the scene because
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
Nolan can't date Lucy. No,
Yeah.
never.
I did
Um,
love when Nolan was like, can I pick the playlist in the roll call? And
right.
Tim just looks at him and he's like, it was a dumb question. I'm like, why? Why did you have to like ask that? But yeah,
Right.
we needed that little comedy scene.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
It definitely
So
was not enough Brolin this episode.
no, it wasn't. I was hoping for a little bit more. I
Like, I
mean,
think this is our first Brolin pairing of the entire season, and it was not
yeah.
enough.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. I'm just glad that like Tim may ride another day in the super shop as roaming watch commander though. So like, because
mhm.
it's kind of cool. It's like definitely different. They haven't done that before. So
Yeah, yeah,
hopefully it's not just a one-off. But
yeah. But it
yeah.
was definitely posing its challenges too for him.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So last but not least, we'll go into Wesley and Vivian and just Wesley in season 8 is just a whole different Wesley, I think. Like he's just sarcastic and snarky and sassy and I just love it. I love everything about it.
Yeah.
So it's his last day at the DA's office and he's relieved. Angela mentions opening a private practice in Malibu with a view of the ocean. And he's like, well, with that commute, like we wouldn't see each other. And she's like, but that's when I would work in Malibu too. We would have a robot helicopter that would fly the kids to school and a pony. And he's like, sorry, I have to kill another one of your dreams, but I've already reached out to my old landlord, and the only view from that office is the Ethiopian place on the first floor. Wesley Evers is going back to his roots. I love
So
this for
fun.
him. I love this for him. Um, but before Wesley has to go, Angela and Nyla both tell him to make sure that he passes off their cases to the right prosecutors. I loved how
Yeah.
they worked to this in their favor. Nyla was like, Cosgrove
Right.
is solid, it should take mine. Angela's like, Daniels doesn't touch homicide, so like give mine to anyone but Daniels. And
Yeah.
then we see Cosgrove quit, and Wesley's like, "Yeah, this is gonna be harder than you think."
Yeah.
And so Vivian and Wesley talk, and she's like, "It's great to see you." And there's no hard feelings on my end. And he's like, "Yeah, you destroyed me in the polls." And she's like, "Yeah, but I made good on my promise, so it's nothing personal." And she says that she agrees with him on a lot of the issues and knows that together they can take the DA's office in a positive direction. And then
Yeah.
Sean Del Monte walks up and questions if he's going to believe that. But Wesley's like, I was about to just hand him my resignation letter. Okay, I understand that Del Monte was like gone because he had family stuff to take care of. But why, after the first episode of Wesley losing the race, does Del Monte just like reappear? And he's like, yeah, I'm back. Dude, where have
Yeah.
you been? Like, where have you been?
Yeah, that's true.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I just thought it was like coincidental timing, honestly. But
Yeah.
they address it, and Sean's like, well, she won't accept your resignation letter because three DAs have already left, with one key in her car on the way out. And I just love Sean and Wesley's dynamic because they're just
Yeah.
like two bros, just like hanging
Yeah.
out. Wesley's like, wait, he left too? How? And
Yeah.
yeah. So Sean apologizes for the election, saying it should have been him against Vivian, and he gives an update on his son, saying that he just got another chip and has been clean for almost 4 months. So Sean's like, I'm gonna stay here and convinces Wesley that he should too, reminding him why he started at the DA's office in the first place. And Wesley's like, that's an inspirational message that just lost by 23 points. And, Vivian ran tough on crime and she's going to deliver on that. And Sean's like, yeah, that's why we're needed now more than ever, urging him to like just work together one last time. And if at the end of the day Wesley still wants to quit, then like he won't stand in the way. So we see Vivian at her desk and she sees Sean and Wesley like walk in, speak to her assistant, and she picks up the phone, quote unquote, talking on it, and hangs up when they walk in her office. And she's like, sorry, I've been on the phone a lot today. I'm like, no, you haven't. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. So she tells them that before she moves upstairs, she wants to clear the deck a little bit. And she's like, we have 27 felony arrests awaiting prosecution. They just don't have the manpower to take them all to trial. And I loved that Wesley questions her sarcastically, and he's like, did you lose some DAs or something? Like some ADAs or something? And she just like doesn't even acknowledge it. And I'm like, wait, are we just like, is she just like not even fazed by that? That's questionable. And so
Yeah.
she has plea deals approved for all of these cases, and they need to be signed ASAP. So this is what Wesley and Sean are tasked with for the day. So Wesley questions one, and he's like, murder two for a guy who robbed a convenience store, and the clerk had a heart attack? Like that's felony manslaughter at best. And
Yeah.
Sean questions another one, and he's like, a teen who pegged his principal is assault with deadly weapon. Like, where are these charges coming up with? And so they question if the DA signed off on these, and Vivian's like, well, I pointed to the significant mandate voters handed to me, and he agreed. So there we go. So Wesley hands the files back, and he's just like, the lawyers aren't gonna agree to these terms, but Vivian doesn't care. She's like, well, I want them to agree. So go forth and do it. So we see a montage of Wesley and Sean like meeting with the lawyers and their clients proposing these pleas. And they obviously know that no one's gonna sign them. So they're not like trying to sway them in a way. Like if anything, they're just being like sarcastic with it and they're just shooting it to them straight. So they're all handed back and Wesley and Sean go back to Vivian and hand her all of the files, and they're like, we met with all 27. We tried our hardest, but the craziest thing is no one would accept the plea deal, not a one. So Vivian's like, well, you need to keep your weekends open because now you have 27 trials that you have to prepare for. Wesley's like done. He's done with it. And he's like, actually I'm quitting right here, right now. And he's like, I would wish you luck, but I hope you fail spectacularly. And I'm like, Wesley, please never change. I love season 8 Wesley. He is my favorite.
Yeah. That was good.
And I loved how he apologized to Sean and he's like, sorry, dude, I thought I could do it, but I can't. And Sean's like, no worries, because I quit too. And
Yeah.
as they walk out, Sean's like, so what do you think of the law firm Del Monte and Evers? And Wesley's like, you've never worked a day in your life as a defense attorney. It's got to be Evers and Del Monte. And that's where we end with them. And I'm just like, yeah, so I'm going to need to see this law firm.
Right. Especially since you like tweeted about it earlier and then it actually
Yeah,
like happened
yeah,
at the end there.
yeah. I mean, yes, we want a season 9 for like all the other characters. I want a season 9 so that I can see Wesley and Sean like just doing defense attorney things. Because I want to see that partnership more. And we haven't seen it in so long. And like they just fell right back into it.
Yeah.
And they're just such a good duo. Like I feel like they could just like with Sean's experience and then like Wesley's, defense attorney kind of style, like it could just be so good. But yeah, I'm just like picturing the office above the Ethiopian restaurant, and I'm like, there's no way that two of them could work in there.
Mhm.
Like, no way. But yeah, so it was good. Part of me did wonder, I was like, is Sean just saying that because they're in earshot of Vivian and like if she hears that, like she's gonna think like, oh, they're trying to like get back at me or something. But I was like, nah, I want them to like actually open this law firm and, be successful with it. So yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's about it for this episode.
Yeah.
It
Me
was
too.
it was a decent one. It
Mhm.
was. It was.
Yeah.
I would say the Wesley stuff kind of carried the episode, and even Celina. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like I feel like those two were kind of the storylines that like helped propel it a little bit more forward.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on that note, that is it for us this week. Um, Let us know your thoughts. You can send us an email at shoptalktherookiepodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter at the Shop Talk Pod _. And we are individually on Twitter as well. I'm at Carrie Hyman.
And I'm at JStark804.
And we're on TikTok as well at the Shop Talk Podcast _. And we also have all of our merch on sale at shop-talk.dashery.com for our 5th birthday, which will be tomorrow when you guys are listening to this. So, yeah.
Crazy.
Um,
5 years ago.
yeah, I know, wild.
Yeah.
But we will be back next week with our recap of 8:15. So we will talk to you guys then.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Go get him, boo.